In the previous lesson, we've learned about derived tables. Another form of table expression provided by SQL Server 2012 is the Common Table Expression, or CTE. Similar in some ways to derived tables, CTEs provides a mechanism for defining a subquery that may then be used elsewhere in a query. Unlike a derived table, a CTE is defined at the beginning of a query and may be referenced multiple times in the outer query. In this lesson, you will learn the uses of CTEs, how to write queries with common table expressions, and how to create common table expressions. First, let's see how to write queries with common table expressions. CTEs are named expressions defined in a query. Like subqueries and derived tables, CTEs provide a means to break down query problems into smaller, more modular units. When you're writing queries with CTEs, you need to know that CTEs are limited in scope to the execution of the outer query, just like a derived table, which means when the outer query ends, the CTE's lifetime ends. CTEs also require a name for the table expression as well as unique names for each of the columns referenced in the CTE select clause, just like a derived table. And to create those column aliases, CTEs can use inline or external aliases. Unlike a derived table, a CTE may be referenced multiple times in the same query with one definition. And if you need to define multiple CTEs, you can do that using the same with clause. CTEs also support recursion, in which the expression is defined with a reference to itself. And to create a common table expression, you need to define the CTE in a with clause, like shown here. You can specify the name of the CTE after the with, use the as clause, and then define the actual CTE in parentheses. And since a CTE is defined before it is used, it may be referred to more flexibly than a derived table. Now let's see how to create a CTE. To create a CTE, you need to define the table expression using the with clause, assign the column aliases using inline or external aliases, and pass the arguments if desired, and reference the CTE in the outer query. Let's look at a quick example. This example uses the same logical query to return the number of distinct customers per year as the derived table example in the previous lesson. To create the CTE, we use the with clause, name the CTE as CTE_year, use the as, and then define the CTE or the select statement in the parenthesis, and then reference the CTE in the outer query. Let's execute this query and see what the results will look like. Let's open a new query, paste the query that we just saw, and click on Execute. The results are similar to the ones that we saw in the derived table example in the previous lesson. Now let's see how to define more than one CTE in a single query. Let's use a comma here and create another CTE called sales quota underscore CTE, and let it have employee ID, sales quota, and the sales year as Let's use the sales employee orders view as a source for this CTE. And let's do select employee ID, the sum of all the quantity that we have here, and then use the year function on the order month field from sales.employee orders view, group by employee ID and the year of the order month. Let's click on Execute, and now the CTE year is created and the sales quota CTE is created, and the results are displayed from the CTE year CTE. And as you can see, if you need to define multiple CTEs, you can use the same with clause but separate them using a comma. In the first CTE, we used inline column aliases, but in the second CTE, we used external column aliases. So, now that we've seen what CTEs are, let's recap what we've learned so far in this module. We've learned what views are, how to create them, and how to write queries against them. We've learned about inline table valued functions and how to use the create function statement to create simple inline table valued functions and how to write queries that return results from them. We've also learned what derived tables are, how to write queries that create and retrieve results from derived tables, how to provide alias names for columns in derived tables, how to pass arguments to them, and how to nest and reuse derived tables. And finally, we've also learned about common table expressions, what their uses are, how to write queries that create CTEs and return results from them, and how a CTE can be reused multiple times by the same outer query, and how to create multiple CTEs using the same with clause, and what the differences are between a derived table and a common table expression. In the next module, you will learn how to write queries that combine data using the union operator, how to compare sets using intersect and except operators, and how to write queries that manipulate rows in a table by using apply with the results of a derived table or a function.